If you're listening to this, you're probably wondering why the world is quiet. Or maybe you're wondering why the sky looks like the bottom of a muddy river. My name is Elias Thorne. I am the lead operator for Crane Unit 4 on the Zenith Tower project. I'm currently sitting in a Liebherr 357 luffing jib crane, roughly 1,200 feet above the pavement. Or what used to be the pavement. I don't know if pavement exists anymore. I don't know if the city exists anymore. All I know is that 10 minutes ago, the world ended. And it didn't end with a bang. It ended with a rising tide of silence. I'm recording this on the crane's emergency comms loop because the radio is dead. My cell phone is a brick. And looking out my windshield. God, looking out my windshield. There is nothing but the tops of the other skyscrapers poking out of a black ocean like tombstones. I need to document this. I need to keep my head straight. So, let's go back. Let's go back to the coffee. It was a Tuesday. 6:45 a.m. You have to understand the job to understand why I'm alive. Being a crane operator isn't just about pulling levers. It's about isolation. You climb the ladder before the sun comes up. You sit in a glass box the size of a closet for 10, 12 hours straight. You pee in a jug. You eat your sandwich looking down at the ants. This morning was perfect. Cold, crisp air coming off the harbor. The sun was just hitting the steel skeleton of the Zenith. We were pouring concrete for the 90th floor, the penthouse deck. I did my pre-flight checks. Checked the load charts. Checked the wind speed. 12 knots. Perfect. I radioed down to my rigger, a kid named Davis. Good kid. Loud, always chewing gum, but he knew his knots. Unit 4 to ground, I said. Morning, Davis. How's the mud looking? Morning, Elias. Davis's voice crackled in my earpiece. Trucks are lined up. Pump is primed. Ready to send the first bucket up whenever you are. Copy that. Dropping the hook. I watched the cable spool out. It takes a long time for a hook to drop 1,000 feet. You get used to the rhythm of it. The hypnotic spin of the block. I looked out over the city. The morning rush hour was in full swing. I could see the gridlock on the bridges. Thousands of cars. Thousands of people rushing to jobs they hated, drinking bad coffee, worrying about emails. From up here, the city breathes. You can see the steam venting from the rooftops. You can see the patterns of the traffic lights changing. It's a living machine. And then, I saw the wall. It came from the west. From the ocean. At first, I thought it was a squall line. A heavy storm front. But weather doesn't move like that. It wasn't a cloud. It was a solid, straight line of darkness. Imagine someone took a ruler and drew a line of vantablack ink across the horizon. It stretched from north to south, as far as I could see. And it was low. Maybe 800 feet high. A perfect, flat-topped tsunami of shadow. I grabbed my binoculars. Ground Unit 4, I said, keeping my voice steady. Davis, you see that weather coming in from the west? Say again, Elias. It's clear skies down here. That's when I realized the scale of it. The wall was so dense, so low, that the people on the ground couldn't see the top of it. To them, it just looked like the horizon getting dark. Davis, listen to me, I said, and I felt the first prickle of cold sweat on my neck. Stop the pump. Get the crew inside. Now. What? Elias, the foreman is gonna flip if we... Get inside. I screamed. I never scream on the radio. Get to the upper levels. Get above the 50th floor. Go. I watched through the binoculars. The wall was moving fast. Faster than a storm. Maybe 60 miles an hour. It was swallowing the coastline. And it was silent. Usually, a storm pushes air. You see the flags whip. You see the trees bend before the rain hits. This thing pushed nothing. It just erased. I watched it hit the bridge. 1 second, the suspension cables were gleaming in the sun. The next, gone. The cars, the trucks, the towers of the bridge. They vanished into the blackness like they had stepped off the edge of the map. And then, the lights went out. As the darkness swallowed the power grid, the city sectors died. One by one. Blink, blink, blink. It was racing toward the zenith, toward the base of my tower. I stood up in the cab. My knuckles were white on the controls. Davis, Davis, come in. Nothing but static. I looked down. Straight down. The zenith is unfinished. It's a skeleton of steel beams and concrete cores. I could see the tiny orange dots of the workers on the ground level scrambling. They had finally seen it. The shadow fell over them. It didn't crash. It didn't splash. It flowed. It flowed through the streets like heavy water. It filled the avenues. It poured into the subway entrances. It climbed the sides of the buildings, not clinging, just rising, like someone was filling the city with ink from a giant tap. I watched it hit the construction trailers. Gone. I watched it hit the parking garage. Gone. I watched it rise past the 10th floor. The 20th. The silence was the worst part. I expected screams. I expected sirens. But sound doesn't travel through whatever that stuff is. As soon as a police car was submerged, its siren cut off. As soon as a person was enveloped, their voice vanished. It was a silencer, a city-wide mute button. I checked my altimeter. I'm at 1,200 feet. The cloud was rising. 300 feet. 400 feet. 500 feet. Come on, I whispered. Stop. Please stop. It slowed down around the 700-foot mark. I looked at the building across the street. The Centurion. It's a residential tower, about 900 feet tall. I saw people on the balconies of the lower floors. I saw a woman in a red bathrobe on the 40th floor. She was looking at the black tide rising toward her balcony railing. She wasn't running. She was frozen. I saw the blackness touch her bare feet. She opened her mouth to scream, and then the blackness rose past her head. She didn't fall. She didn't dissolve. She was just submerged. The cloud kept rising. 750 feet. 780 feet. It stopped. It's been 20 minutes since it stopped. The level seems stable. I've marked it with a grease pencil on the glass of my cab. It's hovering right around the 80th floor of the Zenith. Below me, there is no city. Imagine a sea of charcoal grey cotton. It's smooth, mostly, but it ripples. It has currents. Poking out of this sea are the tops of the tallest buildings. The Empire State. The One World. The Central Park Tower. They look like islands of glass and steel floating in a void. The sun is still shining up here. That's the sick joke of it. The sky above is a brilliant, heartbreaking blue. The clouds are fluffy and white. But look down, and it's hell. I tried the radio again. All channels. Mayday, Mayday. This is Crane 4. Is anyone reading? I got a burst of static on channel 9. A voice. Roof. Trapped. Burning. Then it cut out. I grabbed my scope again. I looked at the Centurion Tower across the way. The top 10 floors are above the cloud. I can see people. They are pressed against the glass of the penthouse windows. They are banging on the panes. They are terrified. But looking closer, I see why. The cloud isn't just gas. I focused the binoculars on the surface of the sea, right near the edge of the Centurion building. Something was moving in the smoke. Ripples. Disturbances. Like a shark fin cutting through water. But wrong. The shape was jagged. Mechanical? Or chitinous? I couldn't tell. But it was circling the building. It was testing the glass. And then I heard it. Through the glass of my cab. Over the sound of the wind. A sound coming from the cloud below. It wasn't a mechanical sound. It sounded like grinding. Like thousands of wet stones grinding together. Grind. Click. Grind. Click. I stepped back from the window. My heart is hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. I am safe for now. The crane is the highest point in the district. I have a diesel generator with half a tank. I have 3 gallons of water. I have a sandwich. But I am trapped. The ladder down leads into the cloud. The elevator is powered down. And I am alone. Wait. Something just hit the tower mast. It felt heavy. I'm going to open the floor hatch. I need to see what's climbing the ladder. If it's Davis. Thank God. If it's not. I'm looking for my wrench. It's a 24-inch steel pipe wrench. It's the only weapon I have. I'm opening the hatch now. The air coming up is cold. It smells like sulfur and rotten copper. Hello. I yell down the shaft. Davis. Silence. Then a scrape. Metal on metal. Someone, or something, is on the ladder. And it's coming up fast. I didn't swing the wrench. Thank God, I didn't swing the wrench. When I kicked the hatch open, the first thing that hit me wasn't a monster. It was the smell. I need to describe this smell because it's stuck in the back of my throat like a coating of wax. It smells like ozone, that sharp electric scent you get right after a lightning strike. But underneath that, it's sweet. Sickly sweet. Like copper wiring left in a damp basement, mixed with old blood. I looked down through the grate. The ladder shaft inside the crane mast is narrow, caged in steel. About 50 feet down, barely visible in the gloom, I saw a helmet. A white hard hat. Help me. The voice was raw. Shredded. It wasn't Davis. Grab the brace. I yelled. I reached down. A hand shot up. It was wearing a high-visibility glove, but the yellow fabric was stained black. Slick. Oily. I grabbed the wrist. It felt fever-hot through the glove. Pull. I hauled with everything I had. My back screamed. I'm 50 years old. I'm not built for deadlifts anymore. But adrenaline is a hell of a drug. I dragged the climber up through the hatch and onto the diamond plate floor of the cab. She collapsed against the control console, heaving, coughing. A wet, rattling cough that sounded like she was trying to expel gravel. It was Vera. Vera Kinsley. The project manager. She's usually the cleanest person on the site. White shirt, tablet in hand, terrifyingly organized. Now, she looked like she'd been dipped in crude oil. Her shirt was torn at the shoulder. Her face was smeared with grey soot, her eyes wide and rimmed with red. I kicked the hatch shut and spun the locking wheel. I didn't want that smell in here. Vera. I grabbed a rag and the water jug. Vera, drink this. She slapped the jug away. Her eyes were darting around the cab, scanning the windows, scanning the sky. The seal, she rasped. Is it sealed? Elias, is the cab sealed? It's sealed, I said, putting my hands up. We're airtight. The AC filters are HEPA grade. We're okay. She slumped. The fight went out of her instantly. She pulled her knees to her chest and started to shake. Violent shivers. Davis, I asked, dreading the answer. Vera, where is Davis? He was on the pump deck. She looked at me, and in that look, I saw the end of the world. He tripped, she whispered. We sat there for 20 minutes. I let her breathe. I watched the grease pencil mark on the window. The cloud outside hadn't moved. It was still holding steady at the 80th floor. Finally, she spoke. She told me what happened in the stairwell. I need to record this. If we die up here, someone needs to know what the boundary looks like. Vera was on the 40th floor inspecting the framing when the darkness hit. She ran for the central stairwell, Core B. It's concrete, reinforced. No windows. She started climbing. She knew, somehow. Instinct. She just ran up. It wasn't filling the building like water, she told me, her voice trembling. It was pressurizing. She said the air pressure changed. Her ears popped. Then, the sounds started coming from below. Screams, she said. But short, cut off. And then, the other sound. The grinding. I asked. No, she shook her head. The clicking. Like thousands of crabs walking on tile. 800 feet down. Then 700. It was climbing the stairs behind me. She made it to the 85th floor, the highest enclosed level, the mechanical room. But the doors were jammed, so she climbed the service ladder to the roof deck, to the 90th floor. I looked back down the shaft, Elias, she said, just before I closed the roof hatch. She paused, taking a sip of the water this time. Her hand was shaking so bad she spilled half of it down her chin. The cloud isn't just gas, she whispered. It has a surface tension. It stopped at the 80th floor landing. It just hovered there, a flat sheet of black smoke. But the surface was boiling. Boiling. Shapes, she said, pushing up against the membrane, trying to break through. I saw a hand. A human hand. It reached up out of the smoke, grabbed the railing, and then something pulled it back down. Something with too many joints. She looked at my wrench on the floor. We aren't alone up here, Elias. Whatever lives in that cloud. It can come out. It just doesn't like the light. We couldn't stay in the cab forever. It's a glass box. If something flies, we're exposed. And we needed to inventory the supplies on the deck. We have to go out, I said. Vera nodded. She's tough. You don't run a $100 million skyscraper project without being made of steel. She wiped her face, leaving streaks of grey. Do you have a weapon? She asked. I handed her a heavy screwdriver. I kept the pipe wrench. Stay low. Keep your eyes on the cloud line. We opened the door. The wind at 1,200 feet is relentless. It strips the heat right out of you. The Zenith's roof is a raw slab of concrete, about 10,000 square feet. It's cluttered with pallets of rebar, stacks of glass panels that were waiting to be installed, and 2 portable chemical toilets. It's an industrial wasteland in the sky. We crawled across the concrete, moving toward the edge. I needed to see the structure. The Zenith is unique. It tapers. The floor we are on is smaller than the ones below it. That means there is a lip. The floors below jut out slightly. I peered over the edge. My stomach dropped. It's one thing to see the cloud from the safety of the glass cab. It's another to smell it in the open air. The cloud layer was about 400 feet below us. It looked solid enough to walk on, a matte black, uneven terrain. And the silence was gone. Down there, near the surface of the cloud, the air was humming, a low-frequency vibration that I could feel in the soles of my boots. Thrum, thrum, thrum. Look, Vera pointed. She was pointing at the Centurion Tower across the street. The Centurion is finished. It has glass balconies. The cloud had swallowed the bottom 80% of the building, but on a balcony just 10 feet above the cloud layer, there was a dog, a golden retriever. It must have been left out on the terrace. It was barking at the smoke, backing away, snapping at the air. "Get back, boy," I whispered uselessly. Then the surface of the cloud broke. It wasn't a slow rise. It was an explosion of motion. Something shot out of the black fog. It moved so fast my eyes barely tracked it. It looked flat, like a stingray, but made of oil and slate, maybe 6 feet wide. It didn't have wings. It had undulating ripples along its sides, and a tail, a long, barbed whip. The skimmer, that's what I'm calling it, launched itself onto the balcony. It didn't bite the dog. It wrapped around it, like a wet blanket thrown over a fire. The dog's bark turned into a muffled yelp. Then the skimmer slid backward. It dragged the dog over the railing and dropped back into the cloud. Splash! Except there was no splash. Just a ripple in the smoke. And then the surface was smooth again. Vera gripped my arm so hard I think she bruised me. "It hunts," she whispered. "The gas hunts." We retreated to the doghouse, a small corrugated steel shed on the roof deck used for storing blueprints and sensitive tools. It has no windows, just a heavy steel door. It's safer than the crane cab. We did an inventory. It took 10 minutes. It felt like reading a will. Here is what we have to survive the end of the world. Water. 2 5-gallon jugs in the water cooler. One is full. One is half empty. Plus my thermos. Maybe 8 gallons total. Food. Vera had a protein bar in her pocket. I have a ham sandwich and an apple. In the shed, we found a box of donuts the crew left, stale, and a bag of coffee grounds. That's it. No vending machines. No cafeteria. Power. The crane runs on a massive diesel generator. It has a belly tank. I checked the gauge. 40% full. At idle, that lasts maybe 3 days. If we run the heaters, maybe 24 hours. Tools, wrenches, hammers, a bolt cutter, 2 radios, dead, and a flare gun. The flare gun. That's our prize. It was in the safety kit. 3 flares. We need to signal, Vera said, pacing the small room. There have to be others. The Empire State. The Chrysler. There are thousands of people working in those top floors. And say what? I asked. Come get us? Nobody is flying in this, Vera. You saw the sky. No helicopters. No planes. We don't signal for rescue, she said, looking at me with those intense, dark eyes. We signal for coalition. We need to know who else is alive. We need to map the archipelago. Archipelago. That's a good word for it. A chain of islands in a sea of death. It's getting dark now. 1900 hours. The sun went down an hour ago. And the horror changed. When the sun hit the cloud, it kept the creatures down. They don't like the light. Vera was right about that. But now, the sun is gone. The moon is behind heavy overcast clouds. The only light comes from the emergency strobes on the tops of the other skyscrapers. Red, white, red, white. And the cloud is rising. Not the gas itself. That stopped at 800 feet. But the sounds are rising. I'm sitting in the crane cab again. Vera is sleeping in the shed. I'm on watch. I can hear them. Scritch, scritch, scritch. They are climbing the steel. I shined my spotlight down the mast of the crane 10 minutes ago. The beam cut through the darkness. The crane tower is a lattice, a grid of steel cross members. About 200 feet down. The tower is moving. It's covered in them. Not the skimmers. Something else. Smaller. Thousands of them. They look like isopods. Like giant pill bugs the size of dinner plates. They are swarming up the metal, eating the rust, or just climbing. I turned the light off immediately. I don't want to draw them. But I know they are coming. I have the flare gun in my lap. I have the wrench. And I have a plan. But I need electricity to do it. The Zenith is an electric building. The main power conduits run up the core. They are dead, obviously. But the building itself, it's a lightning rod. If I can jury-rig the generator, if I can electrify the crane mast, maybe I can fry these things before they reach the cab. But I need help. I can't rewire the generator and guard the hatch at the same time. I have to wake Vera. Wait. To any station. This is Highline. Tower. Sector 4. We see your light. Over. I grabbed the mic. My hand shook. Highline Tower. This is Zenith Unit 4. I hear you. Over. There was a pause. The static hissed. Zenith. Jesus. We thought you guys were gone. This is Captain Miller, NYPD Aviation. We are grounded on the Highline roof. We have civilians. Police. A chopper pilot. Captain, I said. What is happening? What is the cloud? His voice dropped an octave. It sounded hollow. It's not a cloud, Zenith. We ran spectro on it before we landed. It's biological. It's spores. Massive scale. And Zenith? Go ahead, Highline. We're watching your tower through thermal. You need to get off the crane. Now. Why? What do you see? The heat signature, Miller said. There is something massive coiling around the base of your crane. It's not the bugs. It's big. And it's climbing fast. I dropped the mic. The whole world tilted. We aren't just being swarmed. We are being hunted. I am not in the cab anymore. I am on the concrete roof deck, hiding behind a pallet of Portland cement bags. My hands are shaking so bad I can barely hold the recorder. The crane is dead. 10 minutes ago, Captain Miller told me there was a heat signature coiling around the mast. He was right. But he didn't tell me how big it was. When the crane tilted, I thought the wind had gusted. But wind doesn't squeeze. I was thrown against the side window. I looked down through the glass floor plate, the bombardier window we use to spot loads. The mast of the crane, the yellow steel lattice that holds me up, was disappearing. It was being wrapped in something black, thick, muscular. It looked like an anaconda, if an anaconda was 5 feet thick and made of wet asphalt. It was coiling around the steel sections, crushing the cross-bracing. Crunch. The sound of 3-inch steel bolts shearing off is louder than a gunshot. The whole cab dropped 2 feet as the section below me buckled. I grabbed the flare gun. I grabbed the wrench. I kicked the door open. The wind hit me instantly, but it wasn't cold anymore. It was hot. The friction. The creature below was generating heat as it squeezed. I scrambled out onto the slewing deck, the walkway with the railings right behind the cab. I looked over the railing, and I saw it. It wasn't a snake. It wasn't a worm. It was a column of them, the isopods, the bugs I saw earlier. Millions of them. They had interlocked their legs, stacking on top of each other, forming a living rope, a hive-mind muscle. They were swarming up the tower, binding together to create enough leverage to snap the steel, and the head of the column, the leading edge, was 10 feet below the walkway, a seething mass of chitin and legs, reaching up blindly. "Vera!" I screamed toward the shed. "Stay inside. Do not open the door." The head of the swarm hit the underside of the walkway. The metal grating buckled upward. I fell. I landed hard on the counterweight deck. My knee popped. Pain shot up my leg, blinding white-hot. The swarm was spilling over the railing now, a black tide of clicking legs. They weren't biting. They were just flowing, looking for something to crush. They are drawn to vibration, to the generator humming right next to me. I aimed the flare gun at the mass. Thump. Fizz. The magnesium flare hit the center of the column. It didn't just burn. It stuck. The light was blinding red. It lit up the entire rooftop of the Zenith. And the bugs. They screamed. It wasn't a vocal scream. It was the sound of millions of shells cracking at once from the heat. Steam exploded from the wet mass. The column recoiled, thrashing like a severed nerve. The heat broke their cohesion. The rope fell apart. For a second, it rained monsters. Thousands of the dinner-plate-sized bugs detached and fell into the abyss below. The pressure on the crane released. The mast groaned, settling back into place, but it was listing. Crooked. I scrambled down the external ladder. I didn't look down. I just slid, burning the skin off my palms. I hit the concrete roof deck and rolled. I limped to the shed. I banged on the steel door. "Vera, open up. It's me." The door cracked open. I fell inside. We are alive. We are huddled in the doghouse. It's 10 by 10 feet. It smells like rust and old blueprints. We have the battery-powered lantern on low to save juice. Vera bandaged my knee. She used duct tape and a piece of foam insulation. She didn't say much. She's in shock, I think. She keeps polishing the screwdriver I gave her. The attack stopped. The flare scared them off. Or maybe they just decided the crane wasn't edible. But the crane is ruined. The mast is bent. We can't go back up to the cab. We've lost the high ground. But we gained something else. Radio contact. After things settled, I set up the handheld radio near the door crack. "Highline, this is Zenith. We are secure. Do you copy?" Captain Miller came back instantly. And he wasn't alone. "Copy, Zenith. Glad you're still kicking. Listen up. I've got others on the frequency. We're building a net. I listened as the voices of the apocalypse checked in. It was the most beautiful thing I've ever heard. This is Empire Actual. We have 40 civilians on the observation deck. Food is critical. Security is tight. This is 1 Vanderbilt. We have a generator crew. We are secure. But the windows on floor 93 are cracking. This is Hudson Yards. We are overrun on the lower decks. We retreated to the edge. We need ammo. The archipelago. Miller is organizing it. He's the de facto admiral of the sky. He explained the ecosystem. Listen, Zenith, Miller said. The thermal scopes are picking up patterns. The gas. It breathes. It rises at night, drops during the day. Just like a tide. High tide is 2 a.m. Low tide is noon. Plan your movements around the sun. What about the bugs? I asked. The swarm. Those are the builders, Miller said. They eat metal. They strip the iron to build something. We don't know what yet. But they hate UV light. That's why they hit you at night. I looked at Vera. We need UV lamps, I whispered. Grow lights. Halogens. Anything. The crane, Vera said, looking up. The crane has floodlights. Massive 1,000-watt halogens on the boom. The crane is broken, Vera. And the generator. I stopped. A cold dread washed over me. The generator, I repeated. I went back out. Just for a minute. I limp ran to the base of the crane tower. I shined my flashlight on the generator housing, which sits on the slewing deck above. There was a liquid dripping down the bent steel legs. Dark. Oily. Rainbow sheen in the flashlight beam. Drip. 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 The swarm. When they crushed the mast, they crimped the fuel line running from the belly tank. Or maybe a claw punctured it. It was diesel. The lifeblood of our survival was bleeding out onto the concrete roof. I scrambled up the bent ladder. I tried to find the leak. It was a gash in the aluminum tank. I tried to plug it with my hand. The fuel was cold. It slipped through my fingers. I grabbed a roll of duct tape from my belt. I wrapped it. Again. Again. It slowed to a trickle. But the gauge. I shined the light on the fuel gauge. Empty. The tank had 40% this morning. Now, maybe 5%. We have enough fuel for maybe 2 hours of power. 2 hours of heat. 2 hours to charge the radios. 2 hours before the batteries in the flare gun laser sight die. I climbed back down. I walked back to the shed. I sat down opposite Vera. I turned off the lantern to save the battery. We sat in the dark. How bad? She asked. She didn't look at me. Bad, I said. Generator is bleeding out. We have juice until dawn, maybe. After that. We're dark. Vera nodded. She picked up the blueprint tube. She uncapped it and pulled out the plans for the Zenith tower. She turned on her tablet, low battery. She used the screen's glow to illuminate the paper. We can't stay here, Elias, she said. Her voice was steady now. The engineer was back. Without heat, we freeze. Without light, the builders come back and dismantle the shed around us. Where do we go? I gestured at the walls. Down is death. Up is impossible. She traced a line on the blueprint. Not up, she said. Across. The bridge of glass. She pointed to the east side of the roof. The Zenith isn't an island, she said. Not technically. Look at the site plan. I looked. The Zenith is a commercial tower, but it was designed to connect to a luxury hotel next door. The Vertex. The Vertex is shorter, maybe 900 feet. Its roof is submerged in the cloud. Vera, the Vertex is under the ceiling. It's gone. The roof is gone, she corrected. But the sky bridge isn't. She tapped a spot on the 60th floor of the print. There was supposed to be a glass walkway connecting the two towers at the 60th floor. It hasn't been built yet. Exactly. So it's a hole. No, she said. The glass hasn't been installed. But the structural steel, the I-beams, they were placed last week. I signed the inspection. She looked at me. There are two steel beams, 18 inches wide, spanning the gap between our building and the Centurion. Wait. The Centurion? I thought it connected to the Vertex. There are two bridges, she said. One to the Vertex, south. One to the Centurion, east. The Centurion is residential. It has generators. It has food. It has people. I remembered the dog. I remembered the skimmer. Vera, the Centurion is infested. I saw a skimmer take a dog off the balcony. The balconies are infested, she argued. But the core, the apartments, if we can get inside. Elias, it's a finished building. It has doors. It has kitchens. And how do we get down to the 60th floor? I asked. The cloud is at the 80th. She went silent. She turned the tablet brightness up. She illuminated the bottom of the grease pencil chart I'd made on the window earlier. Miller said low tide is at noon, she said. Yeah. So. Look at your marks, Elias. I looked. The cloud wasn't just holding steady. It's dropping. I asked. It's receding, she said. Maybe it's the weather. Maybe it's the atmospheric pressure. But for the last hour, the level has dropped. It's at floor 75 now. She looked at me with a desperate, terrifying hope. If the tide goes out far enough tomorrow at noon, if it drops below the 60th floor, even for 10 minutes, we can walk the beams, I finished. Walk across the gap, 60 stories up, with no railings, while the tide tries to come back in. It was suicide, but staying here was a death sentence. Okay, I said. We wait for low tide. We check the level. If the bridge is clear, we run. I woke up to silence. The wind had died down. I opened the door of the shed. I gasped. The world was white. It wasn't snow. It was fluff. The entire roof deck was covered in a layer of pale, grey dust. It looked like dandelion seeds, but sticky. It covered the rebar. It covered the generator. It covered the crane. I reached out and touched it. It disintegrated instantly into an oily smear. Spores, Vera said, standing behind me. The cloud released spores during the night. I looked at the crane. The yellow steel was fuzzy with the stuff, and where the spores touched the metal was changing. It wasn't rusting. It was pitting. The spores were eating the steel. I looked at the generator. The casing was pitted. I tried the starter. Click, click, click. Dead. The spores had gotten into the intake. The engine was seized. We have no power. We have no heat. And looking over the edge, the cloud is dropping. I can see the 70th floor. The 65th floor. The tide is going out. It's happening, I said. I grabbed the bolt cutters. I grabbed the flare gun, 2 shots left. Vera grabbed the blueprints and a coil of rope we found. We have 6 hours until noon, I said. We need to descend 20 floors through the unfinished skeleton of this building, find the steel beams, and cross to the Centurion. And Elias? Vera pointed at the snow. Yeah. Don't breathe it. Tie your shirt around your face. If that stuff eats steel, imagine what it does to lungs. We masked up. I took one last look at the crane, my home for the last year. It looked like a rotting carcass now, fuzzy and grey against the rising sun. Let's go, I said. We opened the stairwell door. The darkness of the stairwell swallowed us. We are out of the stairwell. We are on the 60th floor. My hands are vibrating. I can't stop them. It's not the cold, though it is freezing up here. It's the adrenaline crash. The descent. God, the descent was worse than the roof. We entered the stairwell at the 90th floor. We had to go down 30 floors to reach the transfer level. In the dark, with only the dying beam of my headlamp and the grey light filtering through the dust. The first 10 floors were fine, just concrete and echoes. But when we hit the 80th floor, the high tide mark, the world changed. The walls weren't concrete anymore. They were coated in a hardened black resin, like someone had sprayed truck bed liner over everything. It was slick, wet, and the smell, ammonia and rotting kelp. We were walking down into the throat of the beast. At the 72nd floor landing, we found them. The builders, the isopods. They weren't swarming. They were nesting. Imagine a beehive, but made of rusted metal shavings and black mucus. The entire landing was clustered with these grey, dinner plate-sized bugs. They were clinging to the walls, the ceiling, the railings. They were dormant, sleeping. Their legs were twitching in time with that rhythmic thrumming sound coming from outside. Thrum, twitch, thrum, twitch. Vera grabbed my jacket. She pointed to the floor. There was no clear path. The stairs were covered in them. We have to step over them, I mouthed. I went first. I stepped between 2 sleeping nightmares. My boot landed on the concrete with a soft grit. One of the bugs hissed. Its antennae, long, wire-like feelers, swept the air, missing my shin by an inch. I froze. I held my breath until my lungs burned. The antenna lowered. It went back to sleep. We did that for 12 floors. 12 floors of tiptoeing through a minefield of sleeping grenades. Every step was a gamble. Every scuff of a boot could have triggered a swarm that would strip the flesh from our bones in seconds. But we made it. We reached the door to the 60th floor. I pushed the crash bar. It was rusted shut. The spores act fast, so I had to kick it. Bam! The sound echoed like a gunshot. Behind us, in the darkness of the stairwell, 1,000 legs woke up. Hissus! Run! I grabbed Vera. We burst out onto the 60th floor deck and slammed the door. I jammed the bolt cutters through the handles just as the first heavy body slammed against the other side. Thud! Thud! They're scratching at the metal now. But they won't come out. The sun is up. The UV light is our shield. But now we have to cross. The 60th floor of the Zenith isn't a floor. It's a mechanical void. There are no walls, no glass, just concrete slabs and exposed steel columns. It's a wind tunnel. I walked to the edge. The view. It breaks your brain. We are exactly 20 floors above the cloud layer. It's low tide, just like Miller said. The Black Sea has receded to roughly the 40th floor. I can see the shoreline on the buildings. Everything below the line is black, coated in that resin. Everything above is grey, dusted with the spore snow. And bridging the gap are the beams. Vera wasn't lying, but she didn't tell me how small they looked. 2 steel I-beams, 24 inches wide, 100 feet long. They stretch from our concrete ledge across the abyss to the balcony of the Centurion Tower. There are no handrails, no safety nets, just 2 rusty stripes of metal suspended over a 400-foot drop into a toxic ocean. That's it, I shouted over the wind. That's the bridge. The framework, Vera corrected. She was pale. She was staring at the beams. They were supposed to pour the concrete walkway next week. I looked at the beams closer. They were covered in the white spore snow. It's ice, I said. Vera, that dust. It's slippery like graphite. If we step on that, we slide off. We crawl, she said. We straddle the beam. Shimmy across. I looked at the Centurion. The balcony door on the other side was glass. It looked intact. Inside, I could see shadows. Furniture or people? I'll go first, I said. I'll take the rope. I'll tie it off on the railing over there. Then you clip in and follow. I tied the rope around my waist. A bowline knot. I checked it 3 times. Elias. Vera grabbed my arm. Don't look down. Just look at the glass. I know. I sat down on the edge of the concrete slab. I put one leg over the steel beam, then the other. I gripped the flange of the beam with my thighs. The steel was freezing cold through my jeans. I scooted forward. I am halfway across. I'm recording this because if I fall, I want someone to know I tried. The beam is slick. The white dust acts like ball bearings. Every time I slide forward, I feel my center of gravity shift. The wind is pushing me sideways, trying to roll me off the steel like a log in water. I am 50 feet from the Zenith, 50 feet from the Centurion. I made the mistake of looking down. The cloud below is churning. The surface isn't smooth anymore. It's boiling. Bubbles the size of cars are bursting, releasing plumes of grey gas. Pop, hiss, pop, and I see shapes, large shapes, moving just under the surface. Keep moving, Elias, Vera's voice shouted from behind me. She's watching from the ledge. I dragged myself forward another foot. Scrape. My hands are raw. The pitting on the steel shreds gloves. Then I felt it. Vibration. Not from the wind. From the beam itself. Thrum. Thrum. I stopped. I pressed my ear against the cold steel. It was ringing, like someone had struck the other end with a hammer. I looked up at the Centurion balcony. The glass door opened. A man stepped out. He wasn't wearing a suit. He was wearing a bathrobe, a silk bathrobe, and he was holding a glass of wine. He looked at me. He smiled. But his eyes. I grabbed my binoculars. They were dangling around my neck. I focused on his face. His eyes were black. No whites. Just solid, oily black spheres. And his skin. It was translucent. I could see the veins underneath. But they weren't blue. They were black. Help! I yelled. We're survivors. The man didn't speak. He tilted the wine glass. He poured the red liquid over the railing. It fell into the cloud. Then He pointed at me, not with a finger, but with his whole hand, palm open. The beam vibrated harder. He wasn't a survivor. He was a host. "Vera!" I screamed. "Get back! He's not human." But then the cloud beneath me exploded. It came up from below like a missile. A skimmer. The flat, ray-like thing I saw yesterday. But this one was huge. 20 feet wingspan. It breached the surface of the fog and arced upward, aiming for the beam. Aiming for me. It didn't have eyes. It had heat pits along its leading edge. It sensed my body heat against the cold sky. I fumbled for the flare gun. My hands were frozen claws. The creature shrieked, a sound like tearing metal. It slammed into the beam 5 feet in front of me. Clang! The impact nearly buckled the steel. I was thrown forward, my chest slamming into the icy metal. I wrapped my arms around the beam, hugging it for dear life. The skimmer wrapped its wings around the beam. Its tail, that barbed, serrated whip, lashed out. Crack! It missed my head by inches. It chipped the steel. It was crawling toward me, undulating along the beam like an inchworm. I got the flare gun out. 1 shot left. Die, you ugly son of a bitch. I didn't aim for the body. I aimed for the beam right in front of it. Pop fizz. The magnesium flare hit the steel. It burned white hot, melting through the spore dust, heating the beam instantly to 1,000 degrees. The skimmer shrieked as its underbelly touched the superheated metal. It sizzled. The smell of burning rubber and rotten meat filled the air. It released the beam. It fell backward, thrashing, tumbling back down into the fog. But the heat traveled through the steel. Ah! My hands. The beam was getting hot. Fast. I scrambled backward, away from the glowing spot. Elias! Vera screamed. Behind you! I spun around, as much as I could while straddling a 24-inch beam. The man on the balcony, the host, was climbing over the railing. He was coming out onto the beam from the other side. He moved unnaturally. He didn't crawl. He walked. He walked on the narrow steel barefoot, perfectly balanced, his black eyes locked on me. He was blocking my path. I was trapped in the middle. Fire in front of me. A monster behind me. And a 400-foot drop on both sides. Vera! I yelled. Pull me back. Pull the rope. Vera grabbed the rope on the Zenith side. She hauled. I slid backward, grating against the steel. The host stopped. He looked at the burning flare spot. He looked at me. Then he opened his mouth. His jaw unhinged. It dropped to his chest. And a sound came out. It wasn't a scream. It was a signal. A high-pitched sonar ping. Below us, the cloud began to churn. Not one ripple. Hundreds. He was calling the flock. Vera, run. I screamed. Cut the rope. Save yourself. No. She pulled harder. I was 10 feet from the Zenith ledge. The host started running. Running along the beam toward me. I had no flares left. I had a wrench. I stood up. I don't know how I did it. Terror, I guess. I stood up on the slippery, icy beam, balancing in the wind. I held the pipe wrench like a baseball bat. Come on! I roared. Come get some. The host lunged. I swung the wrench. It connected with his head. It felt like hitting a bag of wet sand. He flew off the beam. He didn't flinch. He didn't scream. He just stared at me with those black eyes as he fell silently into the abyss. I collapsed back onto the beam, straddling it. Vera dragged me the last 10 feet. I scrambled onto the concrete of the Zenith's 60th floor. We rolled away from the edge, gasping, coughing. "We can't cross," Vera sobbed. "We're trapped." "No," I wheezed. "We're not trapped. We're at war." I looked at the Centurion. The balcony door was open, and through the open door, I saw them, dozens of them, the hosts, standing in the living room, watching us, and behind them, lights, electric lights. "They have power. They have a generator." "Vera," I said, sitting up, "they have power, and they have a bridge. We just failed to cross it." "No," I said. "We failed to walk it. But we still have the rope." I pointed to the beam. The rope I had tied around my waist. The other end was still trailing out, caught on a snag near the Centurion railing. "We have a line connected to their building," I said. So. I looked at the heavy pallet of steel rebar next to us. "We don't walk. We zip line. Into a room full of monsters? Into a room full of supplies," I said. "We hit them fast. We hit them hard. And we take their castle. We are inside." I say that like it's a victory. It's not a victory. It's an infiltration. We are in the Centurion Tower, apartment 6004. It's a luxury suite. White leather sofas, marble countertops, floor-to-ceiling windows. Or, it was a luxury suite. Now, it looks like the inside of a lung. The walls are pulsing. The white drywall is covered in a web of black veins, that same resin I saw in the stairwell, but thinner here. Alive. It throbs in time with the sound from the cloud below. And the smell. It's not rot. It smells like hot plastic and greenhouse humidifiers. It's warm in here. Stiflingly warm. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I need to tell you how we crossed the gap. I need to tell you about the slide. We were stuck on the Zenith's 60th floor. The steel beams were a no-go. The only connection we had to the other side was the rope, my safety line, which was still snagged on the Centurion's balcony railing. The rope was slack, drooping into the void between the buildings. "We can't climb across," Vera said, staring at the sag. "We don't have the upper body strength to monkey bar 300 feet. We don't climb," I said. "We slide." I pointed up. Behind us, the Zenith's unfinished stairwell went up to the 61st and 62nd floors. Physics, Vera. We take our end of the rope. We climb up 2 floors. We pull it tight. We create a slope. And anchor it to what? A structural column. We use a tension knot. If we get enough height, gravity does the work. It was a terrifying plan. It relied on 2 things: that the snag on the Centurion railing would hold the weight of a falling human, that the hosts on the balcony wouldn't cut the line. That was the weirdest part. I watched them through the binoculars while we prepped. There were 3 hosts standing on the balcony now. The man in the bathrobe and 2 others, a woman in gym clothes and a teenager. They were just standing there, watching us. They saw the rope hooked on their railing. They didn't touch it. They just stared, their heads tracking us like security cameras. "Why aren't they cutting it?" Vera whispered as we hauled the rope up the stairs to the 62nd floor. "Maybe they don't know what a rope is," I said. But I knew that was a lie. They knew. They wanted us to come over. We are fresh meat. Or fresh recruits. We anchored the line to a concrete pillar on the 62nd floor. We four-man hauled it, using a pry bar as a lever, until the rope was singing tight. It stretched across the gap, angling down sharply toward the Centurion balcony. "Harness?" Vera asked. "We didn't have climbing harnesses. We improvised." I made a Swiss seat out of tubular nylon webbing we found in the tool shed. We used steel locking carabiners from my crane safety belt. "I go first," I said. "I have the wrench. If those things are waiting for a catch, I need to clear the landing zone." I clipped the carabiner onto the taut rope. I stood on the edge of the 62nd floor. The wind was howling. The drop was 400 feet straight down into the black fog. I looked at Vera. Her face was gray, masked by a rag. "If I don't signal in 2 minutes," I said, "cut the rope. Don't come. Just go, Elias. Before you think about it." I leaned back. The rope took my weight. It stretched. I jumped. The speed hit me instantly. I was flying. The wind tore at my eyes. The Centurion Tower rushed toward me like a wall of glass. I saw the balcony. I saw the hosts. They didn't move to catch me. They stepped back. They opened a path. They're welcoming me. I was coming in too hot. The angle was too steep. "Brace!" I screamed. I didn't aim for the railing. I aimed for the glass doors behind them. I tucked my legs. Crash! I smashed through the tempered glass of the balcony door. It exploded into a million diamonds. I hit the floor of the living room. I rolled. I tumbled over a coffee table, shattering it. I came to a stop against a kitchen island. I scrambled up, wrench in hand, gasping for air. I was inside. I spun around to face the balcony. The 3 hosts were standing outside the broken door. The wind was whipping their clothes, blowing glass shards around their bare feet. They didn't bleed. The man in the bathrobe stepped over the threshold. He raised a hand. "Welcome," he gurgled. It wasn't speech. It was mimicry, like a parrot repeating a sound it heard on TV. I didn't wait for the handshake. I swung the pipe wrench. Crack! I hit him in the knee. The sound was wet, like hitting a pumpkin. His leg buckled backward. He didn't scream. He just looked at his leg, then at me, with zero emotion. The other 2 rushed me. They moved fast, jerky, insect-like speed. The teenager lunged for my throat. I sidestepped and shoved him into the granite countertop. He bounced off, unfazed. "Vera!" I yelled. "Come on!" I heard the zzzzzzzz of the second carabiner outside. She was coming. I had to clear the zone. I grabbed the teenager by his shirt and threw him back through the broken glass door, out onto the balcony. He stumbled into the woman. Then Vera hit. She came through the shattered door feet first. She slammed into the woman host, knocking her over the railing. I watched the woman fall. She didn't flail. She just fell silently into the mist. The teenager tried to grab Vera's line. I tackled him. I drove the handle of the wrench into his chest. It felt hard. Ribs fused together. "Get inside!" I yelled at Vera. She unclipped and scrambled backward into the kitchen. I kicked the teenager. He stumbled back against the railing. He looked at me, hissed, and then he vaulted. He jumped over the railing voluntarily. He dove into the cloud to join the others. Silence. Just the wind whistling through the broken glass. We were alone in the apartment. We barricaded the broken door with a heavy leather sofa and a bookshelf. It won't hold them forever, but it blocks the line of sight. Check the room, I said, panting. We swept the apartment. It's wrong. The lights work. The TV is on, static, but glowing. But the black veins are everywhere. They grow out of the electrical outlets. They run along the baseboards. I touched one with the tip of my wrench. It's warm. It pulsed. It's not just growing, Vera whispered, tracing a vein on the wall. It's wiring. Elias, look. She pointed to a floor lamp. The cord was cut, but the lamp was on. The black resin had grown into the base of the lamp, replacing the copper wire. The biomass conducts electricity, I realized. Miller said they strip the metal. They aren't just eating it. They're replacing it. They're rewiring the building into a biological circuit. Why? To power the cloud, I said, or whatever is inside it. We went to the kitchen. I opened the fridge. The light came on, and inside, food. Real food. Cheese. Milk. Expired, but liquid. Bottles of water. A terrifying amount of kale. We ate like animals. I sat on the floor and shoved cold cheddar cheese into my mouth while Vera chugged orange juice straight from the carton. The sugar rush was almost painful. We have supplies, Vera said, wiping her mouth. We have shelter. We have power. We have a problem, I said. I pointed to the hallway door. It was closed, but under the crack, shadows were moving, and the sound. Thrum, click, thrum, click. The hallway wasn't empty. The Centurion isn't just an apartment building anymore. It's a vertical anthill, and we just broke into a single cell. We found something in the master bedroom. A safe. It was open. The owner, bathrobe man, must have been getting something out when the event hit. Inside there was cash, useless, watches, useless, and a gun. A snub-nose .38 revolver. 6 shots. Vera took it. She has steady hands. What's the plan, Elias? She asked. We can't stay in this room. Eventually, they'll break down the hallway door. We need to contact Miller, I said. We need to tell the archipelago what the hosts are doing. The biological wiring. That's intel. I pulled out the handheld radio. Highline, this is Zenith Actual. Do you copy? Static. Highline, come in. Nothing. I checked the battery. It was fine. The walls, Vera said. The resin in the walls. It's blocking the signal. We're in a Faraday cage. I swore. We need an antenna, I said. We need to get a signal out. I looked at the black veins pulsing on the wall. You said they conduct electricity, I said. Yeah. So. The whole building is an antenna. A biological antenna. Elias, don't. If I can tap into their network, I said, grabbing a lamp cord and stripping the ends. If I can splice the radio output into their vein system, maybe I can use the building's own structure to broadcast the signal. Or maybe you'll fry the radio. Or alert every host in the tower. We don't have a choice. I walked over to the thickest black vein, pulsing near the thermostat. I took the copper wires from the radio output. Cover the door, I told Vera. She aimed the .38 at the hallway door. I jammed the copper wires into the black resin. The radio sparked. The black vein recoiled like a muscle. And then, voices. Not from the radio. From the walls. The walls started to vibrate. The drywall acted like a speaker diaphragm. "Help us. Sector 7. Moving up. They are moving up. Miller to anyone. Miller to." It worked. It worked too well. We were hearing every transmission in the city, amplified by the biomass. "Miller!" I shouted at the wall. "Miller, can you hear me?" The wall vibrated. "Zenith? How the hell are you? Your signal strength is off the charts. You're blasting on every frequency." "We are in the Centurion," I yelled. "The buildings are alive, Miller. The hosts are rewiring them. They are turning the grid into a hive mind." "Copy, Zenith. Listen to me. That explains the interference. But you need to move. If you are in the Centurion, get to the roof." "The roof? Why?" "Because we are seeing movement on the thermal. Massive movement. The cloud is rising again. Faster this time. It's going to breach the 60th floor in 10 minutes. I looked out the shattered balcony door. He was right. The black fog wasn't drifting anymore. It was surging. It was frothing. It was rising like floodwater after a dam break. It was already lapping at the bottom of the balcony. "And Zenith," Miller added. "Yeah. We picked up a signal from the Vertex Tower. The one next to you. There's nobody in the Vertex. It's unfinished." "Not a human signal," Miller said. "A biosignal. A heartbeat. The size of a whale. It's in the Vertex penthouse. And Elias. I think it's the Queen." I looked at Vera. "We have to go up," I said. "Now. To the roof." "Higher," I said. Miller said the Vertex has the Queen. That means the Vertex is the heart. If we want to kill this thing, we have to go to the heart. "How?" I looked at the ceiling of the apartment. I looked at the black veins running up. "We follow the wiring," I said. Bam! The hallway door shook. A fist punched through the wood. A grey hand grabbed the knob. "They are here. Move!" We ran for the stairwell door in the kitchen. We are in the belly of the beast. If you find this recording, do not come looking for us. The Vertex Tower is no longer a building. It is a biological reactor. We are currently on the 95th floor of the Vertex, the mechanical penthouse. My leg is broken, I think. It's taped up, but I can feel the bone grating every time I shift my weight. Vera is reloading the revolver. She has 2 rounds left. We are staring at the heart of the cloud. But before I tell you how it ends, I need to tell you how we climbed out of hell. The rising tide. We left the Centurion apartment as the hosts broke down the door. We ran for the stairwell. But the stairwell wasn't an exit. It was a chimney. The cloud had breached the lower floors. The black fog was rising up the central shaft, pushed by a sudden pressure change. It wasn't drifting anymore. It was surging violently, like water in a flash flood. We ran up. Floor 65. Floor 70. Below us, the sound was deafening. The hiss of the gas. The screams of the hosts being consumed by the rising tide. "Keep moving." Vera shoved me. "Don't look back." At the 80th floor, the black veins on the walls were pulsing so hard they were cracking the drywall. The building was vibrating. The lights were strobing in time with the heartbeat coming from next door, from the Vertex. We hit the roof door at the 90th floor. I slammed the crash bar. We spilled out onto the roof of the Centurion. The sky was apocalyptic. The sun was hidden behind a swirling vortex of black clouds. lightning, green and purple, was arcing between the skyscrapers of the archipelago. And right in front of us, the vertex. The vertex tower is the tallest in the cluster. It stands about 50 feet away from the Centurion. Miller was right. It is the Queen. The top 10 floors of the vertex weren't steel and glass anymore. They were wrapped in a cocoon, a massive, translucent sack of black resin stretched over the steel skeleton. It pulsed with a sickening, bioluminescent green light. Inside the cocoon, shadows moved, giant shadows, and connecting the two buildings was a crane arm. Not my crane. A smaller derrick crane on top of the vertex, used for lifting materials. Its boom had been lowered, bridging the gap between the two roofs. "That's our bridge," I yelled over the wind. "Into that." Vera pointed at the cocoon. "The signal is coming from inside," I shouted. Miller said the cloud is controlled by the signal. If we kill the signal, the cloud drops. We ran for the crane boom. The boom was narrow, a steel lattice covered in the white spore snow. I went first. I scrambled up the lattice on my hands and knees. The wind tried to blow me off. The lightning blinded me. I was halfway across when the membrane of the vertex cocoon ripped open. A guardian emerged. It wasn't a skimmer. It was a biped. A massive, armored hulk, 10 feet tall, covered in chitin plates that looked like scavenged car hoods. It had 4 arms. It stepped onto the crane boom from the vertex side. It blocked the path. It roared, a sound like grinding gears. "Elias! Get down!" Bang! Vera fired past my head. The bullet sparked off the Guardian's chest plate. It didn't flinch. It took a step toward me. It raised a massive claw to swipe me off the boom. I had the pipe wrench. But against this thing, I might as well have had a toothpick. Then I saw it. The crane's cable. The steel winch cable ran along the boom, right under the Guardian's feet. The cable was under tension. I jammed the handle of my wrench into the winch mechanism's exposed gears. The cover had rusted off. Crunch. The gear jammed. The tension spiked. The steel cable snapped. Whip. The cable lashed out like a whip of God. It caught the Guardian across the legs. The force was incredible. It sheared through the chitin legs instantly. The monster toppled sideways. It fell off the boom, plummeting silently into the black fog below. Go! Go! We scrambled the rest of the way. We dove through the torn membrane and into the vertex. Inside the cocoon, the air was hot and thick. The unfinished steel beams were covered in slime. We climbed the internal ladder to the 95th floor, to the penthouse. And there it was. The Queen. It wasn't a bug. It was an organ. A massive beating heart made of black flesh, grafted onto the center of the building. But it wasn't just hanging there. It was wrapped around something. The tuned mass damper. For those who don't know construction, tall buildings sway in the wind. To stop them from falling over, we hang a massive weight, a giant ball of steel or concrete, weighing hundreds of tons, at the top of the tower. It swings counter to the wind to stabilize the structure. The vertex had a 700-ton steel sphere suspended by massive cables. The Queen had grown around this sphere. The black veins were plugged into the hydraulic pistons that control the damper. It's using the kinetic energy, I realized, staring at the horror. The building sways in the wind. The sphere moves. The creature harvests that energy to power the signal. The sphere was pulsing green. Every time it swung, a wave of energy shot out, commanding the cloud outside. How do we kill it? Vera whispered. Bullets won't hurt a 700-ton ball of steel. We don't hurt the ball, I said. We hurt the building. I pointed to the hydraulic brakes. Massive pistons designed to slow the sphere down, to keep it from swinging too far. If we cut the hydraulic lines, I said, the damper loses its brakes. The sphere will swing freely. And if the wind is strong enough, the sphere will swing too far. It will smash into the structural columns. It will act like a wrecking ball from the inside. It will bring the tower down, Vera said. With us in it. Not the whole tower, I lied. I didn't know if I was lying. Just the top. Just the nest. Vera looked at me. She looked at the beating heart. She looked at her gun. She handed me the revolver. You're the mechanic, she said. You know where to shoot. I'll watch the door. I limped over to the hydraulic manifold. The pressure lines were thick, reinforced rubber. The sphere was swaying gently. Thrum, thrum. The Queen sensed me. The black flesh around the sphere tightened. A psionic screech hit my brain, a migraine spike that dropped me to my knees. Leave. The voice wasn't a sound. It was a thought. I crawled forward. Not today, I gritted out. I aimed the .38 at the main pressure valve. BLAM. Hydraulic fluid exploded. High-pressure oil sprayed everywhere. The piston hissed and went slack. The sphere lurched. Without the brake, the next gust of wind pushed it hard. It swung 3 feet to the left. Groan. The Queen shrieked. The movement tore at the biological connections. Vera! Brace! The building swayed back. The sphere swung 6 feet to the right. It was gaining momentum. A 700-ton pendulum. Come on! I yelled. Swing! The wind outside gusted. The tower leaned. The sphere swung 10 feet. Crash! It hit the limit stops. But without the hydraulics, it smashed right through them. It slammed into the steel column on the north side. The impact knocked us flat. The sound was like a bomb going off. The steel column buckled. The Queen screamed, a sound that shattered the remaining glass in the windows. The black flesh tore open. Green ichor sprayed the room. It's working, I yelled. It's breaking loose. The sphere swung back the other way. Crash. It hit the south column. The roof above us cracked. Daylight. Grey, dusty daylight, poured in. The signal stopped. The thrumming died. The cloud. Vera pointed out the hole in the wall. Outside, the black fog was collapsing. Without the signal to hold its cohesion, the gas was dispersing. It was raining down like black sludge. But the tower was dying. The top of the vertex groaned. The steel skeleton was twisting. We have to jump. I grabbed Vera. Jump where? The chute. I pointed to the trash chute, a heavy plastic debris tube that ran down the side of the building for construction waste. It went all the way to the 40th floor dumpster. It was a Hail Mary, a suicide slide. The floor tilted. The tuned mass damper broke free of its cables. The 700-ton ball dropped through the floor. We jumped into the black plastic tube just as the penthouse collapsed. We are alive. We landed in the dumpster on the 40th floor. It was full of drywall insulation. It broke the fall. Mostly. That's how I broke my leg. The top 20 floors of the vertex collapsed. The Queen is dead. Or at least, buried under 1,000 tons of steel. The cloud fell. It didn't disappear. It turned into a liquid, a black, toxic sludge that flooded the streets to a depth of about 20 feet. But the air is clear. We are living on the High Line now. Captain Miller picked us up. The archipelago has become a network of rooftop settlements connected by zip lines and suspension bridges. We have a farm on the roof of the Javits Center. We have water collectors. The world below is gone. The streets are rivers of tar. The subway is a tomb. But up here, we are building something new. I'm looking at the sun right now. Real sun. It's warm. Vera is the chief engineer of the new settlement. She's designing wind turbines to replace the diesel generators. And me, I'm the watchman. I sit on the edge of the roof, looking down at the Black River, because the signal stopped. But the biology didn't die. I still see ripples in the tar. I still see the skimmers breaching like whales. They are evolving. They are learning to breathe our air. But we are evolving too. I have my wrench. I have a new leg brace made of titanium. And I have the high ground. If they want to come up here, they're going to have to climb through me.